Welcome to the Sustainable Living Podcast. Tips, tools, and tactics for living a heart-centered life that honors Mother Earth and her inhabitants. The information shared on the Sustainable Living Podcast reflects the opinions of host Marian West, Jenise Fryatt, and their guests. Please use your own discretion in research before applying any information to your individual situation. Now, here are your hosts, Marian and Jenise.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I'm Jenise Fryatt.
And I'm Marianne West.
And we are here to talk together about a lot of stuff. But basically, we always like to kind of update each other on what's going on. So what's been going on with you, Mariana?
So you're starting out with a big thing. What's going on with me?
Well, we will be getting to tips from our listeners. Of course, we've got some awesome tips in this episode. But there's been some stuff going on.
So lots going on. For one, we actually really wanted to record this on Tuesday, which was Jenise's birthday. Happy birthday. So now it's 2 days late. And I was canning beans with my son, and there were canning emergencies going on, which we ended up just not getting to our podcast. But I ended up with 21 quarts of beans and 13 pints. So we did kidney beans, black beans, and garbanzo beans.
Yeah, and Mariana was sharing that on Instagram and Facebook when she was doing that. I always love that stuff. Canning is fascinating to me. I did my first canning this year. I was so excited. So every time she does stuff, I love to watch and see what she's doing. You've got a lot of food there, my friend, that you put together. Now, were those things that you grew?
No. Those were actually a find. My daughter used to go to the 99-cent store here in San Diego, and believe it or not, they have a lot of organic foods there. Wow. So yeah. So she found also beans, and I guess they were 99 cents. So my dog is barking in the background. So I'm sorry if you guys will hear that, because I don't think we can edit it out. And
hey, it's the homestead life. This is authenticity here.
Yeah.
We're not in a studio. We're on a little homestead, and we will hear animal noises. So
For sure. Speaking of barking dogs, I didn't sleep very well last night because the dogs went off all night, and it's hot, so the windows are open, and we get visited by skunks and possums and all kinds of stuff. And every time they go crazy, I get up and check, because I think we have talked about it on the podcast, but it was actually Christmas morning. Somebody came in and killed like 13 of my hens. And by somebody, I'm not meaning a person. It was an animal of sorts. And my little dogs went crazy, and I let them out. And by the time I was with them with my flashlight and everything, whoever did it wasn't there anymore. But, so now every time they do that, I'm like, okay, is somebody out there, especially, we built this super secure chicken compound, but that's where my big chickens are in. And then we had this broody hen, which resulted in 12 little ones. And so I'm trying to combine them now. And I have right next to the secure compound in a little enclosure, which is not as critter proof as the big one is. And I'm going to leave them, so they're there for 2 days now. So after tonight, I'm going to put them all, when it's dark, I put them all on the same roost, so they wake up together and go, oh yeah, we have been living together. we will get along. Very sneaky.
but smart. Sounds very smart. Yeah.
But since they are not that secure, every time the dogs are going nuts, I'm with my big flashlight.
Understandable.
Going out there, and I wanted to mention that big flashlight because it was an impulse buy. I was at Costco, and people which are familiar with Costco, it's very easy to do impulse buys there because they have so much stuff there. But they had this person with all different kinds of solar equipment. And so I bought this solar flashlight because I really want to get rid of batteries in my life. And, we have flashlight opportunities. Speaking of barking dogs,
Yeah.
so my
So,
nightly one NZ flashlight is fantastic.
oh,
Yeah.
well, maybe you could share the brand or whatever with everybody. So when you get a chance, maybe in the show notes or something, because I'm sure a lot of people would want to know about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I don't know offhand what it is, but I wish now I would have also bought a phone charger because it's bright and it charges up just being in the house. I don't even have to put it
That's
outside.
awesome. The more
Yeah.
solar we can get, the better, especially when it comes to our technology. But I did not sleep as well last night, but for other reasons. I went karaokeing for my birthday. Every year when I turned 40, I decided, getting older can be a pain. It can be depressing for
No,
people. Yeah, no,
really?
yeah. And I just didn't want it to be that way. I think when I was 40, that's when I really got into a daily practice with my yoga. And I also said, I am going to have fun on my birthday. So the way that I do it is I love to karaoke. And I will just say, hey, it's my party on the night, the regular karaoke night that's nearest to my birthday. Hey, it's my birthday party. Come and do karaoke with me. And I bring a cake and I share it with everybody in the bar. And every year, there hasn't been one year that I haven't had just the best time of my life. So I had a lot of fun last night. I was out late for me, which was 11. I never stay out that. Believe me, I'm usually in bed by 9 because I get up at 5. But just so much fun, and I just highly recommend to people, everybody. I found, especially in stressful times like these, when things are rough, and Mariana and I were talking a little bit about how rough it's been. This July has been just tempers flaring and people fighting and issues happening for everybody. Um, you got to have something that brings you joy. And of course, we do get a lot of joy from gardening, but for me, it's like every once in a while, I just have to let loose and dance and sing and just be in the moment. And it's not a necessity for me anymore. I mean, it's not a luxury for me anymore. It's a necessity. So I go karaokeing every week, and again, whatever it is, I just say, find your joy, find that thing that you can completely lose yourself in, and make it a habit that you're doing it on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. And I think a lot of us get so caught up in, oh, I have to do this. And I speak for myself. Yeah, I definitely am. It's like
Mhm.
this needs to be done and this and this and this and this. And then I forget to take the time for myself. And
Yeah.
if joy is missing out of your life, it's just not fun, right?
No, and we've all settled too often. We settle for that. We think, oh well, joy is fun when it happens, but I can't schedule it. I can't make it a regular part of my life because then I'd be frivolous. I have to be working all the time.
So I love what
So
you
no,
just said. Schedule your joy.
yes,
Schedule, make sure whatever it is
yes,
which gives you the bliss, schedule it.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I just wanted to finish the beans since we kind of got into chickens, right?
Yes,
Right
let's
there.
hear about the beans because I want to know.
Yeah, so my daughter ended up at a 99-cent store finding those organic beans, and they were just bugging me sitting there. My kitchen is small, and as you all know, cooking beans is a commitment. You have to think about soaking them overnight, and then they cook sometimes for 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours. So it's not some you can throw your eye on and go, oh, I'm going to take care of this right now or cook this, right? So I said, okay, I'm soaking them all. And I did too much. So I had to freeze a few because we did 2 rounds of canning, which means they have to process at for 90 minutes at 11 pounds. So that means and then it has to cool down. So each batch you take at least, I would say, 2.5 and 3 hours of time commitment. Not
Wow.
that you're working the whole time, but that's how much time it takes to fill the jars, put them in, bring it to pressure, blah, blah, blah. And then you have to let it cool by itself. So it might be even more like 3.5, more time because the pressure has to go down by itself. If you cool it, artificially by whatever, putting cold water over, some people think they want to do it, but it's actually very bad for the process. So your jars can break or, some happens. So it's a full day, but now I have all these jars. So if I don't know what to do for dinner, instead of, going into the temptation, or let's just get some today, you can just open one up and very easily have a meal. So maybe what we should do is do a blog post on 10 easy things you can do with one jar, when you open a jar of beans. Which is
that would be great. Yeah, that's a great idea.
So
I love that.
remind me.
For that. Yeah. And again, I would like to emphasize from what you just said, one of my takeaways is that you're always on the lookout for value, for good deals on things. Like I remember when we first started with the podcast, one of your friends brought you some tuna that he had caught.
Yeah.
And you canned the tuna. So I love that. And then you go to the dollar store and you find these awesome organic beans, and let's can them up. How much money you probably have saved by doing that. And now, like you said, you've got these quick meals that you can just open up and boom. It's convenient and healthy. You're not getting all the crap that if you went and bought canned food, but you would get with that. So
for sure.
I love it. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So what else are we up to, Jenise?
Well, we could probably talk all day long on all the things that we're up to. I know for me with the homestead, I've got my garden going, and I'm really watching the temperature very carefully because we get freezes here, even in the middle of summer sometimes. So I have to make sure things are covered. Other than that, I'm still trying to get new chickens. I've got a line on some chickens. I've got 7 now, and I want to get 7 more, but still haven't done that. So hopefully by the next time we talk, I can give you an update on that. But that's it. I'm also trying to nurse my poor trees back to health because this spring I was not very good to them, and it shows. So, that's about it for me.
Well, I saw you post a picture of some swales you dug. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, I was always enamored with swales when I first saw that. It's a technique in permaculture that you use to passively collect rainwater for your plants. And it's so passive that you don't have to water them. Basically, you dig a ditch that's on the contour of the land, so that you have to know which way the water naturally flows on your land. And that's in permaculture. It's such a big deal to just observe your surroundings, observe nature, observe what is happening on your land, on your property. Where is the sun coming up, setting? Which places get the most sun? Which get the most wind? And so when we first moved here, that was one of the first things I observed, is how the water was running when it rained. Where did it go? And we live on an incline from the southern part of our property to the northern part. It flows downhill. So I didn't even know. I hadn't even taken well, I guess I had. I'd taken my permaculture class by then. But I got some elderberries, was it last year, I think? Elderberry bushes, a good deal on them. And I found a place near my fence on my property on the north end. And I dug a little trench. And then on the south part of that trench, I made kind of a little berm where I planted my elderberry bushes. I had like 8 of them. And I made a video this week because we've had some monsoon kind of rains here in Big Bear. And boy, it just poured. It was like a river of water coming down for like not very long, maybe 20, 30 minutes. But at the end of it, I made a video showing the swale with my elderberry plants, and it was just full. And you could see my neighbor's property to the south of us, the puddles that had collected there, they were just all flowing into my swale. And it was just very gratifying to see how the land, all this water is just going to soak in beneath where my elderberry plants are. And it's going to be moist way down there. So they're going to have this water to draw from for a while, and you can tell, you look at them and they're just they're going crazy. And I look around my land and I really realize how starved my plants are for water here. And I should be doing swale, that kind of thing everywhere I can possibly. Because look how easy it is. I don't even have to water. I just put that little ditch in and boom, Mother Nature does it for me. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
So,
I'm jealous. Gardening here is a challenge right now because there's no water, no rain. So anything you want to keep alive, you have to supplement water. And, and I have those swales all over too. And it definitely, even if it doesn't rain, just from the moisture in the air, water always settles to the lowest point. So actually on the bottom of the ditches, it's where it's the greenest by itself, if I don't supplement water.
Mm-hmm.
But on to the future. So we haven't shared it on the podcast yet, but Jenise and I are both going to be on a panel at Podcast Movement. So, yay!
And what's the name of the panel? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's podcasting for social change.
Okay.
And so we are not the panel leaders, we are the panelists, and our panel leader has not let us know yet exactly what she's planning to do. But we are attempting, that's part of our podcast, is to bring about social change or change in one way or another. And from what you guys have been letting us know from the feedback you're sending to us, we have managed to influence at least a few of you. And actually, we are influencing ourselves too, because I feel when you're here, spouting out to the world, do this, do that, blah, 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 it inspires us to be more vigilant about our own habits. Wouldn't you say so, Jenise?
Yes, I would say so. Absolutely. And I would also say that the feedback, the tips, which we're going to share some of them today, have helped us too. You guys have often as much knowledge to impart, things to share, tips to share as we do. So I think that's probably one of the most gratifying things, is that now we have this community that we all bounce each other, ideas off of each other. And we inspire each other. We show pictures and we share what's going on with each other's homesteads and stuff. It's exciting and it's needed, because the rest of the world is not doing this. Most of humanity is still stuck in a very consumer driven thing. And so we need support. We need to support each other. So I'm really gratified that I found my tribe and that, both of us are able to help others, as well as get supported.
Right. So just to get back to Podcast Movement, it's going to be both Jenise's and mine first time at the conference. But from what I understand, if you are at all interested in podcasting, and if you think you want to start one yourself, or maybe you're already doing it, because I think more and more people are finding their voice and realizing what a powerful tool podcasting can be. So if you are, then I highly recommend you try to get to the conference, especially it's in Anaheim. So if you're on the West Coast, that would be a good chance. Next year, it's going to be on the East Coast somewhere.
So the name of it is Podcast Movement.
Right.
And they can look it up.
Yeah, you can look it up. If you Google Podcast Movement, it comes up. And Jared, who's one of the organizers, actually contacted us and said, hey, do you guys want to have a discount code? And I kind of didn't respond to that saying yes because I don't know if you guys know She Podcast, but Elsie Escobar and Jesse Kupferman, they have a podcast all about podcasting, and they also have free class. And I'm in an intensive podcasting class with Elsie right now, which has been fantastic. So shout out to Elsie, yay!
Yay.
But they have a coupon code that you can get 15% off, and nobody else is getting that much. So if you guys want to go, if you feel like that's something which is calling to you, I would recommend to seek out She Podcasts and get their discount code. I think it's She Podcast, but don't quote me on that. So, and 15% is a really good percentage off. And you know, I figured, hey, let's be big girls.
Yeah.
You know, take this one.
Absolutely. And if it's a bigger discount, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like so much excitement going on in the community, and people just talk about how much value they're getting out of going to and having connected with other people. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then Jenise and I are going to be meeting up in person again there. So expect some live shows from Podcast Movement.
Yeah,
it might be like, oh, we are so tired. I can't talk.
But, you know, again, I totally invite you to please connect with us there. If you go, come and see us, come and meet us. We want to meet you. We would definitely want to meet you and you know, talk to you. And if you're interested in podcasting, we'd be happy to share with you what we know about it to help you on your way as well. So
yeah, because I mean, we started out not knowing anything about podcasting, and I feel now after 2+ years and 100+ episodes, we have learned a lot, and I'm sure there is lots more to learn. I know for sure there's lots more to learn, and it's exciting. It is a very, a fun journey for us. So speaking of learning, one thing we just learned is, some of you might know if you have, I think we talked about it in our 100th episode. I don't want to say mastered, but we are getting pretty good at that whole emailing thing.
And you are, Mariana. Mariana is doing most of the work here. So.
Well, we go back and forth. There are lots of, in the beginning, Jenise did all the tech, everything. So we are just, and I like that about, being together on a journey like that we can kind of take turns doing stuff. And one of us is busy with things. Like right now, Jenise has her mom staying with her. So she has a lot more obligations and can do as much on the podcast. And then last year there was a time where my whole body was hurting and I was just so burned out, and we had been traveling to Germany and I was like, oh, I can't do anything, and Jenise just took over. So it's really nice to be able to work together, and I recommend it for any kind of project. To find somebody to gel with, and
it makes the whole effort more sustainable, really. If it's all up to one person, but if you've got backup in whatever you're doing, it makes it more sustainable.
Absolutely. Right? So speaking of the email, there are a couple of things. We started a contest because one of our guests,
Marissa Vicario, and she wrote a wonderful book about holistic health, and she offered 3 audio versions of her book as a giveaway. So that's one of the things we are giving away, these audio versions of this book about holistic health, which is really along the lines of things we talk about anyway. She comes at it from a very from our perspective of health, right? Whole foods in their most natural state. And don't freak out and about food so much. Try to have a better relationship with your food. So she talked a lot about that stuff on the podcast that I did with her, which is episode 103, Embracing Holistic Health. So if you want to know what her book is about, you can check out that episode. But what are the rules exactly, Mark?
So we thought we are going to start a contest and to give those 3 copies away. And we would love for you to subscribe to our email list, which you can do via our website. There is a little form up now on every page, and you just give us your name and your email, and leave a comment. You can do the contact us form or find us on social media and just say, hey, I entered or I signed up for the email and I want to enter the contest. Now, as it turns out, contests are very tricky and there are lots of rules. And so if you really, well, for one, if you're already signed up to the email, just send us a little note and say, hey, I want to enter the contest. But you can also enter without signing up, you know. But we would love for you to become part of our tribe, and we call the tribe the Sustainable Living Geek. So you can proudly carry the name if you're part of the email list. And, you know, you can always share the podcast or do something else. But
we're making it really easy here, basically. We just want some kind of response from you. That's all. We want to know that the email works the other way, right? We want to make sure that it's not just us going, sending stuff out to you. We want to get just send us, drop us a line, say I want to be in the contest.
Absolutely. And this is true we have sent a total of 2 emails so far. But anytime you hear from us, there is a reply button on there. So hit reply and let us know what you think or if you have ideas or want to share. So there are many, many ways to reach us. And somebody did just that. So, Jenise, do you have
yes,
Pat?
I do. Yes. Okay, so this tip is from Pat Jones, who I happen to know. I work with him. He is the CEO and Executive Director of the International Bridge Tunnel and Turnpike Association. He rocks. And what he was saying was, during a recent podcast, Thoughts on Feminism, you invited your listeners to offer sustainability tips. Here's mine. At the gym, I noticed that a lot of men, while shaving, turn on the water faucet in the sink and leave it on for the 3 to 5 minutes it takes them to shave. That's a lot of wasted water. When I shave, I lather up my face and leave the faucet off while I shave. I turn the water on only to wash the whiskers out of my razor for 3 to 4 seconds, roughly half a dozen times while I'm shaving. Compare my method, running the water for 18 to 24 seconds during my shave versus running the water continuously for 180 to 300 seconds for the guys who let the water run continuously. My message: turn off the water when you shave or brush your teeth. Turn on the faucet only when you absolutely need the water. And that is a tip from Pat Jones.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah. And that's an excellent tip.
Yes.
Especially living in a semi-desert like we are, even Big Bear, you don't have that much water up there. Yes. I guess you used to have more.
Yes. And I will cop to it. I am totally guilty of sometimes letting my water run when I should not. So this is a very good reminder that it's not just for shaving, but for whatever you're doing, you have the water running only when you need to have it running.
Yeah, like hand washing, you can wet your hands, put soap, and you have the water turned off while you do all your scrubbing, which most people are not scrubbing very long. But if you're doing anything like canning or fermenting or whatever, you want to make sure you really do like a clinical scrub, where you go between all your fingers and almost up to your elbows and at least scrub like a minute, and that's a long time for running water. So there is an easy way to deal with that, and it's a hardware store. They have like little flick things you can put on the end of your faucet. Mm-hmm. So if it's on, instead of having to turn the knob or to turn, whatever your device is, how you turn it on, some you turn a knob and some you have to put a lever up and down. So it's a little flick right on the end of the faucet, and you can just with one finger click it and it turns off the water, and then very easily click it back on. So that makes it super, super simple.
That's cool. And where do you find that at the hardware store?
Yeah. Okay. And we should see if I'm sure it's available online. I didn't research, but we can research that, okay. And then the other one, which is working for me very well, is that all my gray water goes to my yard. So it's directly feeding a lemon tree or bananas or some that's basically what I have mostly connected to gray water is several citrus trees and bananas. So I'm actually feeling I'm doing some good for my plants because we don't use that much water. So I feel justified letting it run because I'm basically watering my plants as I do
That's
that.
good.
But if you don't have that, I would say do a test of having a container underneath your sink where you're either doing your shaving or your washing and let it run through the whole process and catch all that water in the bucket or whatever. And I think you will be surprised how much water will go down the drain in that 3 minutes or however long it takes you.
Yeah.
So if you do the test, let us know.
Yeah.
And then the next time, do the same container and obviously use that water you catch to water a plant or something, right?
Yeah.
Or flush the toilet for that matter. That's one way to use gray water too.
One of the things that I was doing when I was better, and this is probably what I will go back to, I need to go back to, is I would just always have what we call a dish pan, like a plastic dish pan that you can get at the dollar store, right? And it would just be filled with soapy water. And I would just have it next to the sink. So I could still use the sink. It wouldn't be filled up. But as I used my dishes, I just throw them in that soapy water. And it's amazing just having it soak there. It takes away so much of the effort of washing the dishes because water is such a natural solvent in itself. And obviously I'm saving water because I'm not having it run to wash my dishes. So
and time saver,
Yeah.
if you soak stuff, then you don't spend time scrubbing it.
Yep,
It's
yep.
just doing it for you. We're all about passive
Yes.
passive workload, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So
that's so good.
Yeah, great tip. Thank you, Pat. And now have you got one for us, Mariana?
Yeah, we do it on a semi-regular basis that we put little posts up on Instagram and Facebook and ask you guys for tips. And I'm so blown away how many people have been responding. So we probably won't get to all of you today. So if you don't hear your name today, I promise it will be soon. It will come, okay? And so the first one I want to share is from Instagram, and the handle of the person is Scary Harry Vampire Larry. And actually, in a post, she shared her name with me, and I forgot. I'm so sorry. I don't want to say the wrong name, and I was going to go and find it, and I couldn't find it because it was, in a conversation, so buried way down somewhere. But I'm going to message Scary Harry Vampire Larry and ask her for her name again. So what she is saying, we TerraCycle everything. We've cut out 3/4 of our toss of garbage. It's for a good cause, it earns the schools money, and it makes us feel good. I haul off 2 to 4 shopping bags of waste to the TerraCycle bin each week, and everyone feels good about it. Between that and composting, we make 1 13-gallon bag of trash a week. And I know she has a child, so there's, it's not just one person. And so I was like, wow, that's very cool. And the first thing I asked her, what is TerraCycling?
Yes.
So she told me about it, said it's a company which recycles all kinds of things which are hard to recycle. And so I thought about it a little bit, and then I was hitting my head and goes, oh my gosh, I should have known this, because I think it was episode 96. I interviewed Mark Lefko. He wrote a book about global sustainability, and he had interviewed 21 CEOs of companies which make a difference. And he had interviewed the TerraCycle founder. At the time, I was like, oh, I really want to reach out to him and get an interview because, here, get this. They recycle cigarette butts.
Whoa.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Right? So, but this also shows you that sometimes you have to hear things many times from different directions, because here I had been thinking about it, and I definitely had, I read the book, I read the bio of all the different companies and the CEOs and what they're doing, and it totally slipped my mind. When she was saying TerraCycle, it was like I had never heard of it. So if that happens to you, don't feel bad. It happens to all of us.
Well, and that does sound like a really good potential guest to have. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yes. And also, I think most of you know by now is that I'm involved in a physical sustainability center. It's in the very first baby steps. And eventually we will have like little segments on what we are doing there on the show to kind of showcase what happens if you try to build a sustainability center from scratch, basically. And I so want to become a drop-off point for TerraCycle. So I will look into and see what it all takes to do that, and definitely report back to you, because there are so many things you just cannot recycle with curbside recycling. Like the things like lip gloss comes in, so it's plastic tubes. So yes, you can wash them and then you can make your own lip gloss and put them in there. But that's a real commitment to wash those things and actually get them clean and so forth, which obviously reuse is always better than recycle, and not to buy things in the first place is even better if you don't need them, But so that was just, I really appreciated the tip. And to tell you the truth, what was it?
Scary Harry Vampire Larry.
Exactly. I love the name, so I followed her just because of the name. And she's a very cool person. She posts very cool things. So, you have another tip?
I do. Let's see. Now, this is from Stephanie McCoy, she's got tips every week. Every time we put anything up looking for tips, she's got them up. And she's a good friend of Mariana's. She's wonderful. I got to meet her at the Permaculture Voices years ago. Anyway, she says, just threw my cloth napkins in the wash. Using these allows us to ditch or significantly reduce use of paper towels. And when I do the wash, I use Oasis laundry soap that is the best for soil and the environment. You can either set up a gray water system or just, now I'm doing two tips at once. So let's stick with the cloth napkins. My goodness, today.
Yeah, I have one coming along the same line from Sustainable Trendy from Instagram. And she is saying using cloth towels for wiping makeup off instead of single-use cotton pads. And then let me see, I have another one. Tell me about reusable napkins.
I like to take old things that I get, maybe even if I have old towels or old sheets, I will cut them up and I will sew to make napkins. This is great. You do it with sheets. You just sew up the ends, hem the ends of it, and you've got napkins. I mean, they don't have to be pretty. They just have to be functional, It's so much better than having a paper napkin there, right? And it's simple. And then when you're washing your face, that's another thing that I do. I take towels and I cut them up so that I have little cloths, and I didn't bother hemming the ends for those. But that's basically how I remove my makeup at night. I use a combination. I use an oil of olive oil and castor oil, half and half. It's a little bit more olive oil because my skin tends to be dry. So I'll put that all over my face and then use some really hot water, put it on that cloth, and take it off. And so those are two things, it's not any harder. It's easier. In fact, I don't have to go to the store and buy crap, right? I don't have to buy facial wipes or napkins. And also, I'm doing something good for the earth, reusing what I have. So I love those two tips.
Yeah, I use towels too. I want to say if you use things in your face, make sure it's single use. So not single use, throw it away, but single use, put it in the laundry basket. I think that's one reasons that we have so many disposable products. Bacteria can grow in towels, especially if they're moist and hanging around. And instead of going to the place of saying, okay, we need to have better habits of either, hanging the towels that they can try out, maybe not in the bathroom, which can stay more humid and it's harder. People just went to, let's just throw it away. Yeah, just make sure you wash them, put them in the wash. And usually towels and bedding and stuff like that, I do wash on sanitary wash, so I wash them extra hot. I use the same laundry soap like Stephanie does. And the reason I do that is it's pretty much the only one we can use in Southern California for our gray water. A lot of the gray water soaps still have a lot of salt in it, which is fine if you live in Oregon, if you live in Washington, where it rains and all of that gets soaking through the soil. But if you do that in more of a desert climate and you have salt in, and salt has a lot of different names, so you really want to look at the labels. So if it has a lot of salt in the soap, you can basically kill your soil. We just don't have enough rain. Even our city water, it's usually already higher in salt than rainwater would be. My laundry water again goes out to my plants, so I don't feel good about using that longer wash cycle. And then whenever possible, which is pretty much most of the time here, we really don't have a lot of rain time, I hang them out in the sun, which is another tip actually too people have given us, is to use your laundry line to dry your clothes.
If you live in a place like we do, where there's tons of sun and you're by the beach, but here it's ridiculously dry. So it actually, things dry faster when I hang them out than they do if I put them in the dryer. So that's a no-brainer. I will admit that, occasionally when things are really stiff, like towels or such, I'll hang them out and then I'll throw them in the dryer just for a few minutes to soften them up. I don't know. That's just a no-brainer. That's another passive thing. Why not use the natural dryness and heat of the sun? But, one other thing I just wanted to say while we're on this before we get off, because we've talked a lot about several things in one tip here. We've talked about reusing old sheets and towels for napkins and facial wipes. We've talked about how to launder those things, how important it is to make sure that you're using a good temperature and killing the germs. You're not using a damp cloth over and over again with germs on it that are growing, or bacteria or fungus or whatever. But we also mentioned the gray water system that you have. And Stephanie mentions that as well. She says you can either set up a gray water system or just schlep the water out to your plants that you reuse it. So that is a great tip. And I would think that it has to make you more environmentally aware of what you're obviously using. Like you said, if you use things that have a lot of salt, you're going to kill your garden. So you really, I would imagine, become a lot more in tune to your impact on the planet when you have a gray water system.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me do a real quick shout out before we move on to that. And that's to Kelly Bess. Her Instagram handle is Twick and Leaf. And she was saying hang clothes even if living in a condo. So as I was saying, we got those kind of tips from our listeners. And she's taking it even further and say you can do that even if you live in a condo. And truthfully, when I grew up, I was living in Germany where it's very cold all winter, and we didn't have a dryer. You hang your laundry, and we have an attic, but a lot of people would just dry the clothes in the house. So it's possible, and I get it that not everybody wants to have drying clothes hanging all over the house and stuff like that, but when possible. So yes, back to the gray water. It absolutely makes you more aware. You read every label, and you pretty much cannot use any of those laundry soaps or fabric softeners or whatever people are getting. If you go to the supermarket, you might as well just walk by that aisle. There's really not much there you can use. This is a good time to invite people to go and look at all those labels and then look up all the different ingredients, see what they actually do to not just the soil, but think about that all of those things stick a little bit in your clothes. There's always some residual, leftover of that, which will be on your skin when you wear the clothes or use a towel or whatever it is you just washed. And our skin is super absorbent. Everything we put on our skin is very fast in our body. So I don't want to go any further with that right now, but I invite you to go read the labels, not just of the laundry soaps, but also of the cosmetics, creams, whatever it is you're using, and then just see. That's all I say for right now.
Good advice. Good advice. So have you got another one, Mariana?
I have lots of them. So
Okay.
talked about the laundry lines. Oh, you know what? I also got the laundry line from Sally Olsen, and her handle is Sally O'Writer on Instagram. She's also a friend in our writing group, so she has a blog and she writes some books. So check her out. She is a homesteader as well. They live in, I forgot which place in the world she's living in the US, but I forgot which state. But she has a lot of good information on being a mother at home and also running a home business and having basically a homestead. I really like her writing and I like it too.
What was
that? Was using a laundry line. So, and then what she is saying, bonus, your clothes last longer. And why is that? Do you know?
Well, no,
Okay.
I wouldn't know. Tell
me. When you use a dryer, you have to do what every time you use the dryer, before or after? You have a lint trap, right?
Right.
And there's all kinds of fiber in there, and this is coming out of your clothes. So, yeah. So every time you use a dryer, your clothes gets a little bit weaker, and you lose some of it. That's why, like, you can have an old t-shirt which is almost see-through because everything possible left it. But just to say, even on a laundry line, if you leave your clothes for 3 days hanging in direct sunlight, that's not good for your clothes either. But in general, if you don't use a dryer, your clothes last a lot longer. The other bonus is if you have a stain on your clothes and you missed it and didn't pre-treat it or get rid of it. And let me throw in a tip right here. Especially if you have little kids. If they eat an orange or a peach and it's nice and juicy and they happen to have a t-shirt on, that juice is going to be on the shirt. And I think you see a lot of baby clothes which has just fruit stains, or blueberries or any kind of fruit, just really likes to stain your clothes. One way to get rid of that is to boil water and go to your sink and pour that boiling water over the stain until the stain disappears. So that really works for fruit. If you didn't do that, chances are when your clothes comes out of the laundry, it still has that same stain in it. Maybe a little bit lighter, but it's there. And if you now put it in the dryer, you set it and it's there forever. Why, if you hang it on the laundry line, you have another chance to get rid of that stain.
Brilliant. And I have tried that boiling water thing on stains and it really does work. And you can, I've done it where I've put stain remover on the stain first and then pour the boiling water. Like if there's grease or something on it. I have my own stain remover that I make out of like Dawn detergent and hydrogen peroxide, half and half. It's amazing how powerful that is and easy it is. And if I have a particularly stubborn stain, that's what I do. And especially, like, how often do you get stains on things that you're supposed to hand wash, right? That you can't even put in. So this works really well for that. You're not putting all the stress and strain of a full hot water wash on your delicate clothing. You can it's micro targeting right on the stain with the hot boiling water. Great tip. Yeah, on that note, I've got something that's kind of related, a tip, and then maybe this may be our last tip because we're coming to the end of our hour. We'll probably go a little over, but so this tip is from Carol Petrie, and she posted it on our Facebook group, Sustainable Living Tips, Tools, and Tactics. And she says, shop at thrift stores for clothes. America wastes a large amount of clothing. Turn someone else's clothing into something new by altering it or making a quilt, or who knows. She says she uses old lace that she finds at thrift stores and other interesting fabrics to wrap gifts in. They look great. So there's so many things you can do with used clothing or used cloth. There's a ton you can do with used old sheets or old towels as well. And it's just a win-win, I think, on that. And just always be thinking of ways that you can turn old things into new things and make them something even better. Upcycling, right? Brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I don't know if it was her, if somebody else posted along the same lines, that you use lace and put it on like really simple canvas type shoes and create this really hip looking new look. And I thought that was very cool.
Yeah.
There's so much which can be done in recycling and upcycling fashion. And actually, you had an interview with two ladies where you can send your clothes and then you can pick from nice clothing back. So it's kind of an exchange program. But the clothes they receive, which they don't feel is up to the standard, they give to another entity who recycles them into new clothing. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it really is. It reminds me of a thing that I came across on this wonderful book called The Good Life. I can't remember the subtitle of it, but basically she talks a lot about what she calls swap-a-ramas, where people will get together. They bring all their used clothing that they're going to give to the thrift store, and they set people up with sewing machines, and you basically design new clothing out of these old things right there on spot. It's a kind of a social creative thing at the same time. So there's just so many ways that we can, take advantage of this waste stream and turn old things into new things and have a lot of fun doing it.
I love that because when several people come together, like somebody is going to think of some.
And by the way, just to be more specific, that episode that Mariana was talking about, it was the topic was a silk roll. That is the name of the site where you can send in your old clothes, nice clothes, in decent condition, but then you get credits, and you can use those credits to buy other clothes that other people are recycling as well. So again, it's silk roll.
So first, when you were talking about that, I said you were going to talk about the naked lady parties, which is a thing.
I don't know. Tell me about this.
It's called Naked Lady Party, and you bring all your clothes you don't want anymore. But I like the name, it's a Naked Lady Party. You go and walk away dressed in a new way.
Do you actually walk around naked? Are you all naked there doing this?
I think it's up to you how you want to conduct it. Now, if you do it in a public park, I suggest do not walk around naked.
Well, it just reminded me, my son in Portland, they have naked everything. They have naked bike races and naked barbecues. And so I was just curious if this is along those lines, but it just may be that for, a catchy name, which it really is.
Right. Well, and I guess you could take it, that far and there, but as I say, don't do it in a public park. That might be a problem.
Unless you want to have an experience with the authorities.
I got a feedback on one of our episodes on Voxer.
Hi, Marianne. I just got done listening to your landscape episode on your podcast. And at the very end, you asked your guest about ants, specifically Argentinian ants. Now, I don't have a specific Argentinian ant method, but I can tell you one thing about ants in general. They don't like chalk. Chalk, the chalk that you draw on a blackboard with. And so you can actually draw a line Let's say you put an ant inside a circle and you draw a chalk circle around it. It will walk around and around and around. Eventually it will cross the chalk when it realizes, hey, I'm going to be trapped in here. But generally they won't cross it. So I hope that helps. I don't know how you would apply the chalk. I don't know if you have wood floors or, obviously you can't really draw chalk lines on carpet, but you may be able to crush it up. I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know about chalk does deter ants. Hope it helps.
That, my friends, was Cassie Klein from Rock Your Retirement Show podcast. Thank you so much, Cassie, for your feedback. And the way she gave us the feedback was via Voxer. And very, very soon, we're going to tell you a lot about Voxer. But today, we're going to tell you about our YouTube channel. That's enough for one day, right? We definitely invite you to come over and join our YouTube channel, which is very small at this point. But hey, every one of you can make it go by one, and we would love that. And actually, if you haven't checked it out, we have a friend who has been traveling the world. Her name is Claudia. And she has been sending us little 3-minute snippets of her adventures. And you can find those over on the YouTube channel. So one of them is, for example, when she's in Morocco. She's in a park in Morocco, which is dedicated to sustainability. You see little snippets of that. I totally invite you to check it out. And the latest one she sent is from Mexico, where she's actually at an ecological reserve, I think it's called, and it's full of plastic everywhere. Yeah, go and check it out. But you won't hear the Voxer on YouTube because that's beyond my pay grade. I don't know how to do that yet. Someday I might be, but right now it's too far.
Yeah, I think so. You guys, thanks for tuning in. Thank you so much for sending in your amazing tips. And we're going to continue to do this on a regular basis. Share your tips with everyone. So please keep them coming. Have a wonderful week, you guys. Until next time, take care. We love you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.